Morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa, and I am with the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. With me today is Jay Allis. He's a small business. He is the food industry expert with the Coachella Valley Small Business Development Center. Today, we will talk about food service. What can you do, and how do you make it work? Let me give you some background information on Jay. So he has 35 years of working in fine dining, independent restaurants, catering, food trucks, and many other concepts related to the food industry. His expertise include positional experience ranging from busboy, kitchen lead, and sous chef to executive chef and ownership. So during this webinar, we're going to learn a lot about the food industry. Jade, I'll allow you to take this on. One last thing, actually, before I allow you to continue. If you do have any questions, Jay is allowing questions to come and he'll answer them. Please go ahead and input them on the chat or Q&A. I will go ahead and assist Jay in answering those questions. And this recording is this Zoom is being recorded. I will share the link after the webinar along with Jay's contact information and the PowerPoint. Thank you. Jay, go ahead and take this over.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Like Vanessa said, my name is Jay Allis. I am a food industry expert. I work for Coachella Valley Small Business Development Center. So here is a fantastic picture of me when I was younger. Luckily, it's in black and white, so it makes me look even better looking than I was back then. Clearly not the case now, but I want to point out right here, when you get your Zoom link or your PDF of this particular program, these are functioning links that I put in here. So you can click on this link and it will go to a Calendly page where you can schedule an appointment with. All right, the Small Business Development Center, who we are what I like to call the unofficial consultation branch of the Small Business Administration. We do not work directly for them, but they do pay a good portion of our bills, as well as the California Governor's Office. So we get national and state funding, and then there are a number of other interested parties that fund us. What that basically means is everything we do is free, not just this particular program, but one-on-one consultations, any other program that we are doing, conferences, etc., which is a great resource for anybody. And we help business start up, and those businesses that are already in business, we strive to make them more profitable and bigger, better, faster, stronger. Okay. All right. Today we are actually going to go over a fair amount of stuff, so in a limited amount of time. So we are going to break it down into available food programs, some of those program limitations, and then talking about some of the stuff that make a functioning or currently in business restaurant or food business more profitable. Okay, so let's just get right to it. So there are basically two types of businesses that you can do. You can do those at home, and then there are those that you cannot do at home. Okay, luckily we all live in Riverside County, at least that is the assumption, being in Greater Coachella Valley. In which case you have two options available for you for your home. You can turn your home kitchen into a small commercial enterprise. Those two are the micro enterprise home kitchen operation and the cottage food operation. So the cottage food operation, what exactly is that? Essentially, it is a limited way to do some food production at your house. Specifically, they have what's called an approved foods list. That approved foods list allows you to do perishable items, bread, cupcakes, cookies, brownies, churros, fruit tamales, a bunch of dried goods, some extracts, some honeys, some mustards and vinegars, a good number of things, candies, confections, that types of thing. Essentially, they are all going to be perishable, which means if you leave them out on a counter, like a cookie, if you leave that cookie out for a week, Oddly, it's going to be a guilty pleasure when you go around and eat it, which you can do. It might be stale, but strangely, it will still be a bit tasty. So compare that to a bottle of milk. If you leave it out on your counter for a week, or for that matter, a couple of hours, you really don't want to drink that. It is going to be sour turned and be chock full of bacteria, which are potentially hazardous. Okay. So that's what the approved foods list avoids, is potentially hazardous foods, and focuses on perishable foods. Okay. So the next operation that you can do is the Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen operation. Now, what exactly is a Mikko? It is a little bit difficult to explain, but it's essentially taking your kitchen and turning it into a limited form of meal prep and delivery, potentially a pop-up restaurant in your house, potentially it is not catering. A lot of people mistake it for being catering. It is meal-based, meaning that whatever you do has to be associated into a meal. So I get a fair number of people that from time to time take a look at the Cottage Food operation and the approved foods list there and realize that their particular item that they want to do is not on the approved foods list. So I'll give you a clear example. Barbecue sauce. Barbecue sauce is not available as a CFO. So could you do barbecue sauce as a Mikko? Yes, you could. But you cannot do exclusively barbecue sauce or sell bottles of barbecue sauce using your Mikko. Why is that? Because the Mikko is designed to be a meal. So you could make barbecue chicken, barbecue ribs, whatever the case may be, and use your barbecue sauce on that particular product, but you cannot just straight sell the barbecue sauce. A bottle of barbecue sauce is not a meal. It has to be associated into a meal. Okay. I also get people that want to do some baked goods that are not on the approved food list. And so they think, for instance, I can do wedding cakes. You can do wedding cakes as a CFO as long as it falls onto the approved food list. If it does not, will the Mikko do it? No, it will not, because a wedding cake, again, is not a meal. It is just a portion of a meal, or one course in a meal. Okay. So there are a number of different things associated with both of these two programs. They are meant to be limited. For instance, the Mikko has a sales cap of $50,000 a year. The CFO has actually two versions of it. Version A, the Class A, has a sales cap of $75,000 a year, and the Class B has a sales cap of $150,000 per year. So in any case, you are taking your home kitchen, turning it into a commercial project, and you can make decent money doing so, provided, of course, you keep your costs under control, etc. Another thing to understand with the Mikko is it has limitations on how many meals per day and per week you can do. Mikko only allows you to do a maximum of 30 meals per day and a maximum of 60 meals per week. So you could do your operations on 2 days, max out on those 2 days at 30 meals each, and you are pretty much done for the week. So that is important to understand. Another important thing to understand about a Mikko is your meal, when it is done, is basically dropped off, delivered, picked up, etc., or they're coming to your house to sit down and eat. Most people don't necessarily choose that option. Not every city will allow that option, but the state law and the county enactments say that you can, but your city has the final say as to exactly what you can do within their city limits. Okay. Now, it is not catering. I cannot stress this enough. There is a difference between drop off and delivery and then staying, replating, setting it up, and serving it. Setting it up serving it, replating it, anything other than just dropping it off in its packaging is catering, okay? Mikko is not catering. So that does not allow you to go over to your friend's birthday party and cook meals for them and think that your Mikko permit is covering that, okay? So next, if you are not at home, then what are your options, okay? Your options are the temporary food facility. Now, what is a temporary food facility? If you have been to a farmer's market or a street fair or the Palm Springs Film Festival, occasionally you see a pop-up looking tent with somebody out there making stuff like tacos or street corn or any number of things. That is a temporary food facility. Now, it is hard to tell which one is legal and which one is not unless you understand all the rules, but generally speaking, the ones that you just see in a random location on the side of the road are going to be illegal temporary food facilities. The reason being is because the temporary food facility is event-based, not just event-based, but events that are authorized by the city and or the county, okay? So if it's in an unincorporated area of the GVC, it is going to be regulated by the county. If it is within the city limits of any given city, they have to sign off on that actual event, okay? Now, a temporary food facility allows you to do a good number of things. There aren't necessarily restrictions on what you can cook, but given that it is a temporary facility, having the proper equipment is going to be key. There are a number of items that you will need to get. Obviously, a pop-up tent, you're going to have it walled on 3 sides with an opening for a pass-through. You're going to need, your tables for your prep area. You're going to need igloo coolers with ice or some sort of refrigeration to keep your product at temperature. You may or may not need a commercial kitchen depending on how you operate, okay? A commercial kitchen is required if you are going to do any sort of pre-purchasing of product, any sort of prep of product, for instance, marinating carne asada the day before or some such, brining of chickens if you're doing a whole chicken roasting or some such. You need a commercial kitchen for that. However, a TFF, and of course, check with your health department because you're going to have to make sure that you're following the rules. A TFF can operate with full food purchase day of, full food on-site production day of, but the thing is you would have to, at the end of the day, dispose of whatever leftovers remain. Reason being, because you don't have a commercial kitchen. If you don't have a commercial kitchen, you don't have anywhere to store your product pre-event, so you can't pre-purchase. You have to purchase it and go straight to the event. You don't have anywhere to do prep and then bring it to the event and execute because you don't have a commercial kitchen. Therefore, all food purchase needs to be made day of. All food production needs to take place on site day of. And then because you don't have a commercial kitchen, you don't have anywhere to take remaining food product that has been properly temperature controlled back to a facility where it can remain under proper temperature controls. So therefore, it would need to be disposed of, okay? So this is a great one for getting involved with a number of different events around the GVC and surrounding cities. It can be a good moneymaker for sure, but having the proper equipment and understanding your operation is going to be crucial. So next one you can do is, of course, catering. So what is a catering permit? How does that operate? Pretty much all of us are familiar with catering, okay? A catering permit is essentially taking an order for a large party, can even be potentially a small party, preparing that food, taking it on site, perhaps finishing the execution, plating it up, putting it in a buffet line, some sort of hybrid operation. I've seen a couple of those as well. But basically, you are making the food, you are serving the food on site someplace. Okay, that is essentially what a catering permit is. Now, a catering permit will also allow you, and what you would be getting if you used a commercial kitchen. So our previous permit, the temporary food facility permit, if you used a commercial kitchen, you would, by design, be also getting a catering permit. By getting a catering permit, you are now able to do private parties wherever they might be, as well as use your commercial kitchen to facilitate prep and whatnot for your temporary food facility. So kind of a bit of a double whammy right there, ways to pair up some of these permits. I have also seen people pair up the temporary food facility with a CFO permit. I have seen people get a Mikko and a catering permit, for instance, or a CFO and a catering permit. So there's lots of fun combinations you can do. Okay. The next one, a lot of people are interested in this one, it seems like nowadays, is the mobile food facility. So what exactly is a mobile food facility? I put up here a picture of one of the most popular versions, that being a food truck. But there are more versions of a mobile food facility. There is what they call a tier 3, which is 100% prepackaged mobile food facility. So something like that would be your old school ice cream man who rolls up in the truck, doesn't scoop anything. You hand him $1, he hands you a prepackaged bomb pop. You go home, you eat it, or you eat it right there, go home, and your mom wonders why you have blue lips or red lips or whatever the final flavor is, right? That is a tier 3, 100% prepackaged food. Tier 4 is going to be a limited food production. That is going to be your coffee carts. That is going to be your hot dog carts, that type of thing. You're basically preparing the food, storing it, keeping it warm. Like in the case of a hot dog, you're not cooking the hot dog on the cart. You're basically warming it up, bringing it out on site. You're doing limited production. You're taking the hot dog, putting it in a bun, and then maybe topping it with some condiments, etc. Off it goes. You're not cooking anything. Limited food production, that is tier 4. Tier 5 is going to be your full-on food truck. That is where you have the ability to fully cook all of your products, your sauces, your barbecue, your tacos, your fried chicken tenders, your corn dogs, whatever the heck it is that you're making. You are doing full food production. It is essentially a kitchen on wheels. Okay. Now, having said all that, there are also multiple types of physical food carts, right? You have carts, you have trailers, you have push carts, you have bicycle carts, you have trucks. Okay. All of them are considered mobile food facilities. One of the rules about mobile food facilities is they have to use what is called a commissary. And a commissary, at least in the case of a food truck, is essentially RV storage on steroids. Okay, it is where your mobile food facility is housed, where it lives when not in service. Okay? It doesn't matter if you have a hot dog push cart or a truck or a trailer, it cannot stay at your home. That is actually illegal. And most cities will jump down your throat about that because they don't want you doing that. Code enforcement will also get after you. Sometimes even your neighbors will be like, hey, get that thing out of here. So a commissary is where your mobile food facility is stored. Basically, that allows you to do food prep. There's oftentimes a commercial kitchen aspect to the commissary. Sometimes there's a shop associated with the commissary. They also usually have water, electrical, gas hookups. a way to dispose of any sort of trash, recycling, grease waste. You can usually clean your mobile food facility there as well. So it's kind of, like I said, an RV shop on steroids, right? So after that, basically we move into the fixed food facility. So what is a fixed food facility? For lack of a better description, these are your eating places, your physical eating places, okay? Starbucks is a fixed food facility. Applebee's, TGI Fridays, those are all of your independent restaurants are going to be this. Your meat and threes, your delis, etc., are going to be fixed food facilities. Any fixed brick and mortar building that serves food or deals with food is going to be a fixed food facility. So as you can imagine, with a fixed food facility, not only do you have the ability to set up tables and have a dining area, although it's not required. Imagine like a Domino's pizza shop, right? It's making pizzas all day long. It has a front counter and a minimal waiting area because they don't want you to loiter, but you certainly can't order a Domino's pizza, sit down and eat it anywhere inside. However, it is still a fixed food facility. So a fixed food facility can be pickup, it can be drop off, it can be a dining area, it can be used for delivery. It allows you the most flexibility because now you have a full commercial kitchen. Of course, it depends on what exactly you are setting it up for. Starbucks, for instance, doesn't have ovens, stoves, burners, grills, flat tops, none of that stuff. They are very limited. As a matter of fact, for the most part, all they have is a toaster oven to warm up their little breakfast sandwiches and stuff. Okay, so all fixed food facilities share a minimal kitchen setup. That's going to be your mop sink, your 3-sink, your dry storage area, any sort of refrigeration you might need, and a minimal prep table area. Okay. Expanding beyond that, of course, means more specialized equipment, hoods, fire suppression systems, all the bells and whistles. But if you have a fixed food facility, now you have a facility which you can utilize for your own food production, but you can also utilize that for catering. You can use it, you can get it adjusted to act as a commissary for any sort of mobile food facility. Not every fixed food facility can do that, but there is the potential to do that. And talking about that is, of course, something we could do at another time. But the fixed food facility gives you the most opportunity. It gives you a lot of things that you can do. Okay. So outside of that, you may have heard the term commercial kitchen. Of course, I'm using it right now. You may have heard the term ghost kitchen. A commercial kitchen is going to be a fixed facility. So there are a couple of different types. For instance, since we're talking about the fixed food facility, if you have a restaurant and you have somebody come in and utilize it, essentially you're acting as a shared use facility. You have primary use of that kitchen, but you can potentially have a second party come in, like a caterer, for instance, come in and use that facility, either while you are there, if there is space and the accommodation to do so, or more likely during off hours. So if you're open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., they would have to come in from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. and not interfere with your operations. Okay. Now, another term that a lot of people hear and somewhat misuse is ghost kitchen. So that what I just mentioned, that shared use kitchen, is not a ghost kitchen. A ghost kitchen is, best way to describe a ghost kitchen is a very small kitchen, no seating, no dining. It is just a box kitchen with no real bells and whistles. They are designed for takeout and delivery only. Okay. As a matter of fact, primarily they're for delivery only and don't even have a counter where clients can come and pick stuff up. Okay. Now, there is your standard rental commercial kitchen, which is a facility that was built and designed not to house any particular operation, but to be rented out time and space-wise to interested parties, caterers, bakers, etc., in order to give them a kitchen from which to work. So you have essentially three types. You've got a rental commercial kitchen, you have a shared use commercial kitchen, you have a ghost kitchen. The ghost kitchen, by standard, is going to be your own facility. It is your own small commercial kitchen. Okay, you are basically paying lease on those. There aren't terribly many ghost kitchen operations anywhere in the Inland Empire or Coachella Valley that I know of. They are much more popular out in Los Angeles County. But who knows, you might pop across one. And if you do, please let me know. I'm always interested in hearing about new and exciting things that I am not aware of. All right, so.
Jay.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let our audience know that if they do have any questions, please use the Q&A. I think we're having technical difficulties with the chat option. So
yeah, I saw Maria's good morning and still not working. I'm not sure what that referred to, but
yeah, it was the chat box, but the Q&A is enabled. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. And if you did want to just have us unmute you, I'm happy to do that if you have questions. Thank you.
Yeah,
Jay.
I'm happy to take real-time verbal questions.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go over a couple of things. What's on the menu? Of course, this can help influence what your surroundings are going to be. So for instance, if you're a Middle Eastern restaurant, you might have Middle Eastern type things, right? It's highly unlikely that you're going into a Chinese restaurant that doesn't have one of those waving kitty things, right? Decor is going to be influenced by your food, right? Also, it's going to help determine your equipment needs. Understanding what you want to cook and what you're going to be doing is going to help you know what equipment you need. For instance, if you're doing baking cakes, primarily you need a mixer and an oven. You're not going to go out of your way to get a flat top or a grill or a fryer, okay? They can also help you target your demographics to understand who you are selling to, and it can reveal what permits and licenses are required. So I get a lot of people that say, oh, I want to start a CFO, but I'm making this. Well, it's not on the approved foods list. Well, unless we can adjust it to be on the approved food list, now we have to start talking about other options, right? If we can't do the approved food list and we can't do it under a Mikko, that means now we're out of the house. We got to find a commercial kitchen someplace where we can produce said product. Okay. So other things is your understanding of what equipment you need, your fryers, your grills, your griddles, your oven stoves, refrigeration, hotline, deli cases. All of that is, of course, going to play in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Some of it you will need, some of it you won't need. But even a TFF, a lot of these can be concerns, right? I'm doing fried chicken wings and with my specialty sauce, and I am serving those. Well, I need a fryer, clearly. For refrigeration, I need some sort of cooler with enough ice to keep my product at temperature for the duration of the event, or some sort of actual mechanical refrigeration. In terms of a hotline, I might need a setup for actual, I cook, and then here's how I set everything up, etc., right? Or a taco bar, for instance. How am I keeping my lettuce, tomatoes, pico, etc. cool while I am cooking the meat and I'm under the hot sun, even though I'm under a tent and in shade, right? Of course, understanding all your small wares and incidentals are going to be important. These are all items that we're going to need. All right. Now, if you're going to be opening a fixed food facility, are you going to be doing a dining room? Understanding all your items that you need there. And of course, depending on your permit, Some of these will take place, some of these will not take place. A catering operation, for instance, is going to need chafing dishes, it's going to need serving utensils. Now, oftentimes when you do catering, you're going on site someplace. One of the little hidden ways for a catering company to actually make more money is to own their own plates, their own glasses, their own utensils, potentially even their own tables and chairs, right? And rent those out, because there are party rental companies out there that provide all of those items. If you're a one-stop shop as a caterer, might take you some investment and some time to get all that stuff. But now, not only are you serving the food, but you're making money on the incidental items that people are going to need anyways and would otherwise be going to somebody else for. Okay. So other things for a fixed food facility, built-in items, stone ovens. I've seen those. I actually saw one of those installed using a giant crane. That was pretty cool. A walk-in cooler, your hood, your bar, your dish pit, your grease trap, etc. So all of these things are going to play into what you may or may not need given whatever your operation is going to be. Okay. Obviously, the built-in items are going to be more for a fixed food facility, but can also very much take place in a mobile food facility. Okay. All right. After that, beer, wine, and liquor. So there are a bunch of different permit types, and I have some links here for the ABC board for permit types, for the fees associated with those permits, and of course, to allow you to use applications for licensing forms. So here's the general rule of thumb. In order to have a beer, wine, or liquor permit, you have to have a fixed food facility. That permit is going to be attached to a specific location. So occasionally you get somebody who says, oh, I want to do adult beverage, but I want to do a food truck. Can't do it. Okay. There are ways to do mobile bartending services, but you are not actually selling the alcohol. You are selling your services and the mixers. Your client would be the one purchasing the beverages and not for resale. Okay. So there are a couple of exceptions in terms of having a permit and then utilizing it at a different location. It doesn't necessarily work really well usually, but there are some ways to discuss some of that stuff. But typically speaking, it has to be your location at your site for alcoholic sales. Okay. All right. Now, of course, financial considerations, all of this is going to come into play regardless of which direction you go. So the first question is, how much money do you have? Second is, how much do you need? And where can you get those additional funds? So how much money do you have? Cash, collateral, equity, savings, your current income are all going to play into that. How much do you need? You need to understand what your equipment is, your lease, and we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. How much it costs to get your plans drawn up, whether it's fixed food facility or a mobile food facility. Both of those require plan drawings and submittal. How much is it going to cost to get your permits and licenses, which covers every permit is going to need permits and licensing. Any sort of revenue, renovations that you're going to need to do, any sort of initial inventory that you might need, and of course, what I like to call working capital that some of my financially minded consultants hate me using because they want specifics. So I will use it here because she is not here. Working capital. Working capital is essentially the money that you have on a day-to-day basis to cover your expenses, because you're constantly going to have money out of pocket, money in the pocket. It's almost like a minimum bank balance that you don't want to go below to make sure that all your bills can be paid while you are seeing money come in. Okay. So also working capital covers your financial needs while you go from startup to breaking even, right? There's going to be a period of time where, unfortunately, you're going to be losing money. It's not like you open the doors day one and you are initially making enough money to cover all of your costs. You're going to be losing money, but increasing in sales until you reach the point where your overhead costs match your sales costs, or your sales, right? And eventually your sales are going to exceed that overhead cost, and now you're in profitability. In the meantime, you're pretty much going to be working off your working capital. Okay, if you don't have money enough to start your business on your own, how much do you need? And then where can you get it? Of course, family, friends, other investors, bringing on partners is always beneficial. And then, of course, financial institutions. So I did not list grants on here because grants typically for startup businesses are kind of like getting struck by lightning. Another way to consider it is trying to be caller number 7 to your local radio station. Somebody will get the grant, but chances are it's not going to be you, and the funds are going to be expended before you get there. Now, having said that, here this past year, there has been more grant opportunities out there. I do believe there are some on deck. I believe a brand new one through Verizon in association with the SBDC just came out. I personally don't know terribly much about that particular program. I just got an email about it last week, but I haven't seen any specifics. What the requirements are, what you need to get involved. Also, I just saw was a sign up link. Okay, so it's always, of course, something to ask about and look into. I know there are some city-based ones here that seem to be on the horizon. I have not seen the specifics on them, but potentially those are an opportunity. But like I said, be careful with grants. Do not base your business model on getting a grant. If you are requiring a grant to start your business model, you might want to rethink things a little bit, okay? Your business needs to be cash flow positive, usually between month 3 to 6, typically in month 3 to 4. And the startup costs should be, you shouldn't be stressing yourself so much that you don't have a buffer upon which to fall back, right? For instance, it takes $200,000 to open a restaurant, which is lowballing it, but just by way of example. If it costs $200,000 to renovate a space to open the doors, and that's all the money that you have, you've pretty much doomed yourself, because now you have no money for inventory, you have no money for overhead, lease, utilities, labor, anything, right? You need extra money to reach that break-even point, okay? And if we're counting on a grant in order to reach that goal, that can be really detrimental. So grants I would consider kind of like the cherry on top of the cupcake. They're going to make it much better looking, but overall not necessarily much better tasting, right? Your business needs to be a tasty cupcake in and of itself. So business plan. If you are going to need funding in any form, you are going to need a business plan. And why? Because it shows commitment. It takes the crazy ideas that you have in your head, or at least that I would have in my head, and gets them down onto paper, right? It takes your disassociated ideas and forces you to sit down, write it out. Shows commitment to what you want to do. It
Jay?
can also reveal feasibility. Yeah.
So sorry, Jay. So we have a question regarding your previous slide. The question is, what kind of requirements would a financial institution be looking for a small business, for small business loans?
So are we talking about a startup, or are we talking about already in business?
Then Miss Whitney, startup.
So essentially, they're going to take a look at a number of different things. They're going to see how much cash you have in your pocket. Normally for a startup, they are going to want a clear history of your work experience, right? If, just for example, you used to be a lawyer and now you want to be a restaurateur, but you have no work experience in that field, that's not really going to play very, right? So you want to show history of experience in that particular field. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to take a look at your personal assets. How much cash are you bringing to the table? Kind of a general rule is for every 100,000 that you are going to borrow, you need 10,000 to 30,000. Okay, I have yet to see anybody on the 10,000 side. Most people that I see are usually in the 20 to 25,000 range. So whatever you are borrowing, you are going to need 10% to 30%, and on average 20 to 25%. So if you are doing a restaurants nowadays, there's a huge wide range of how much those could potentially cost, based on what your concept is, how big that concept is, what all equipment you need. But not only that, what are the state of affairs at any given location, right? And I'm kind of going off on a segue, so I apologize. So experience, cash, what kind of collateral you have, typically home, car, RV, boat, that type of thing. What is your commitment? How are you going to be involved? What is your ability to pay the loan back? That's one of the biggest ones, right? So I've run into people where they assume, oh, well, I am a lawyer today, but I have a partner who is a business manager, and once we open the restaurant, I'm going to quit what I'm doing now and be at the restaurant full time. They don't want you to do that, because your loan is your ability to repay the loan is going to be based on your current position. Okay. And until that loan is paid back or refinanced, based on other criteria, you leaving your current position puts your ability to repay the loan in jeopardy. Okay. So they're going to look at a number of different things. But for the most part, your credit score, your collateral, your cash, your capacity or your commitment, any sort of partners that you're bringing in, etc. Okay. All right. So back to the business plan. Putting together the business plan can show feasibility. You can also use it as a tool to obtain financing, right? A lot of times you go in, let's say, with all of that stuff to get a bank loan. They're going to want to see your business plan, because your business plan is going to show what your business is all about, who's running it, who's operating it, who's involved with it, your projections, your financials, etc. Okay, that's going to be one of the first things that they are going to ask for. Additionally, it could be used as a management tool or kind of a plan of, here's how we wanted things to go. Here's where we are now, a year later. Things aren't going exactly how we wanted to. Let's take a look at this management tool and see, or the business plan, and see how we can refocus on how we originally wanted to do, instead of just putting out fires, which has kind of led us astray, right? So I like to say lack of planning very often leads to failure. Not always. There's always that fun divine intervention from time to time. But for the most part, planning is going to, as a percentage, be much more successful than lack of planning. Of course, you never know. Life throws curveballs, so planning can sometimes go awry as well. But flexibility and the ability to adapt are also very, very important. So your business plan basically has 8 essential components. It's got a cover sheet, table of contents, and then an executive summary. After that, you've got business development, organizational plan, marketing plan, financial plan, and assumptions. And then if you have a bunch of mumbo jumbo in there, you can add an appendix to show any further issues. So here's the funny thing about the business plan is when you actually make it, you skip steps 1, 2, and 3, and you dive right into 4, 5, 6, and 7. So a cover sheet, yeah, you could do that up front. A table of contents, you don't necessarily know where everything is. And an executive summary is like trying to write the cliff notes before you actually write the book, right? So putting together an executive summary will come after you've got the business plan done, and it's just basically narrowing everything down into kind of a 5-minute elevator sales pitch. It's only going to be a page or two. You're going to put the table of contents in there. Okay. So the funny thing is when you take your business plan to a bank, they're going to basically look at two things. The guy behind the desk is going to read your executive summary, and then he's going to flip straight through to your financial plan and assumptions. Those are the two initial tools they use to find out whether or not you are going to be a viable candidate for lending, and where, if you are, where you would fall on that 10 to 30% down requirement. Okay. Now, if that's the case, you say, why should I do the rest of this stuff? Because oftentimes, once you are initially approved and fill out an application for a loan, your business plan is then going to get the full scrutinization, the fine-tooth comb treatment, and they are going to go through it during underwriting to make sure everything is legit. Okay. All right. After that, business plan options. You've got a full business plan that's needed for bank loans, partnership, pitches to investors, etc. That's going to be a priority when expanding into your own fixed food facility, or expanding your fixed food facility, or open a second location. And we have a bunch of resources and templates to assist you in helping these things. And of course, one-on-one consultations. We can work on your business plan and your financial assumptions, etc. together. All right. So a lot of people make the mistake of, oh, I want to start a restaurant. So the first thing I'm going to do is go find a location. Find a location is actually step 3 in the initial startup phase, right? Finding a location. Let's just say you go and find a location. You go in. Do not make the mistake of signing a lease. I have a client who signed a lease about a year ago and still has not opened. She did not realize that she had to get her equipment certified. She did not realize that she had to get plans drawn up, approved, etc. And it has just been headache after headache. She has literally been paying rent for a year and has yet to open her doors. Location comes second. What comes first is open to speculation. My financial consultant friend would say, you need to understand your financials and understand if you can afford it or what you can afford in the first place. I would have others say, writing down your idea first, showing commitment, and then doing your financials is going to be important. Either way, business plan, financials need to be taken care of first. Understanding what you've got and your ability to get a loan is going to come before finding a location. Oftentimes nowadays, it seems like when a location comes available, they are snatched up really quick. And if you're not ready to jump on the place, when you find it, chances are you're going to miss out, and then your heart's going to be broken because the place that you fell in love with is no longer available. So finding a location, when you are ready for that step, we do have consultants that are real estate specialists that can assist with this stuff. But you're going to go over size, cost, how visible it is, what kind of traffic it has, what your nearby businesses is, your competition, how much parking it has. Renovations needed are going to be a huge budgetary line item, so that is going to be very important. Understanding if you need a conditional use permit from your city, and by that, you would want to involve the city and county early on in this process. So you can find locations in a number of different ways. You can do the old open window, arm out the window cruising technique and be on the lookout. Lots of places have signs in the windows and phone numbers you can call. City and county planning and economic development departments often have lists or people that they work with to try and facilitate businesses in their respective areas, and they can assist. There are, of course, online resources, some real estate websites and stuff like that that you can do. And of course, commercial realtors, okay? Like I mentioned, we also, the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center also just brought on a specialist in real estate, and Coachella Valley and Inland Empire work together. We're all a big, happy family. So we can utilize his services to assist in some of these things, lease reviews and other fun things. So after that, once you find a location, you're going to get contract renovation quotes. You're going to do a rough draft sketch of the layout. You're going to get a quote on your rough sketch. You're going to understand your major equipment needs. Then you're going to actually get real plans drawn up. Once you understand the overall cost and whether or not you can afford it, you're going to get a number of things done. You're going to get inspected. You're going to figure out how much it costs, what timeline, where are the possible difficulties. Bringing on a contractor, of course, you want them to be certified and insured. Don't just go to the local Home Depot and grab one of the guys out front who says, yeah, I'm a general contractor. Make sure they've got their paperwork and they are insured so they don't scam you. And of course, some subcontractors. Most general contractors have a list of subcontractors that they work with. I know plenty of people that have family members that could assist and are their own subcontractors for a wide range of uses. Discuss whether or not you can use those individuals with the general contractor. And are they all inclusive? Do they have access to architects and whatnot that can draw up your plans and do everything top to bottom? Or are they going to piecemeal things out and leave some things undone? And of course, reviews, right? Make sure you're not getting scammed. Sure, a lot of you have watched home improvement shows where it shows a lot of contractors just walking away from jobs and such. So, all right, for those of you already in business, so items to look at and understanding your numbers. So it doesn't matter what business you are in, including a food business. There are two primary things when it comes to business. Number one, numbers, understanding your numbers. And two, at least in the case of the food service industry and a good number of other industries, customer service, okay? We are not going to focus on customer service today. That's a whole other bag of wax that we don't want to get into, but we're going to touch on some of these numbers issues. So for a food business, you've got two primary things where it comes to your numbers. Food cost is going to be one of your business expenses. The other is going to be labor. But food cost, you would be shocked and surprised at how many people I talk to that are struggling restaurants and have no idea what their food cost is, okay? You've got two versions of food cost. You've got the micro, which is going to be individual recipes and combined plate costs. Your macro is going to be what is your restaurant running overall as a food cost. Two completely different things that work symbiotically together, okay? So costing and pricing, understanding this is very, very, very important. Understanding how much it costs you to produce something and then pricing it appropriately is where your profit margins come from. So number one, understanding how to cost out a recipe, right? If I am doing a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs, I have a recipe for marinara sauce, I have a recipe for my meatballs, and I have a recipe for my pasta. Each one of those are going to come up with a different price, right? My marinara sauce makes 5 gallons of marinara sauce, and I need to understand how much each ounce of that marinara sauce cost me to make, right? How big are my meatballs? How much meatball mix do I make in any given recipe, okay? That will allow me to determine what my portion sizes are and then combine those costs together. So each meatball I make cost me 23 cents per ounce to make. I want to do 2 meatballs, or 2-ounce meatballs, so that's 46 cents to make. And then I want to do 5 meatballs per plate, so that would be roughly $2.50. Actually $2.30, but that $2.30 would be added to my 8 ounces of angel hair pasta. That would cost me, 13 cents, let's just say. So all of a sudden I'm at 2.43, and now I'm going to add in a 6-ounce ladle of marinara sauce that cost me 5 cents per ounce. So 10 ounces or 6 ounces cost me 30 cents. So all of a sudden my combined plate cost for spaghetti and meatballs is, what did I say? 230 cents, 270, 263, 273, right? So understanding my portions, my combined costs, now I apply what's called the 30% rule. Restaurants on average run a 28 to 35% food cost. Obviously, the lower you are, the higher your profit margin is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should do that, because perceived market value, right? If you are trying to crank up the price of your product to increase your profitability, you can run into issues, right? You are selling, you are overvaluing your product, in which case your clientele are not going to be terribly appreciative of that. But generally speaking, if I have a $2.75 food cost, roughly 3 times that is going to be what I should sell it for. So $2.75 is $4, $5.50, $7, $8.25 ish, right? Is what I should be selling it for. So that's kind of my baseline. Now, what is market value saying I can actually sell it for? In some cases, it's going to be saying I need to sell it for less. If I sell it for less, I need to understand that I'm going to be running a higher food cost percentage and thereby less profitability. Sometimes the market will work in the opposite way, and I can sell it for $10 versus $8.25. In which case, my profitability has gone up, my food cost percentage has gone down. Okay, but understanding your costs is going to be massively important. So how do we do that? So one of the first things we need to do is put together an inventory. Again, you would be shocked and amazed at how many restaurants I've dealt with that have not put together an inventory list or ever taken inventory. This should be done monthly. One of the biggest reasons to do it monthly is because every month you have an end of month report. At least if you're doing your books appropriately, you should be doing an end of month report. Now, during that month, you might have gone out and spent $10,000 on food, right? In which case, you did sales of $30,000. Oh, that's 30% food cost. That's right in line, right? Perfect. Everything is great. Well, the next month, you suddenly spend $7,500 on food, but you still have $30,000 in sales. Now suddenly you're running a lower food cost. Ooh, yay, I'm doing great. The following month, all of a sudden, you're up to $1,250 in food cost is what you spent, and you're still at $30,000. All of a sudden, your food cost percentage on the macro level is like a roller coaster ride, okay? Doing inventory allows you to balance that out. It accounts for money on the shelves in the form of product. The whole reason in month 2 you spent less on food is because you had leftover product, which was still viable from month 1 that you've already bought and paid for. Now you don't have to buy as much because you're utilizing some of that inventory. And then the following month, you've burned through all that stuff, and now you're at a higher, you have to make up some ground, right? So it balances out your monthly financials. I used to work with a guy who, you would think it was neurotic, but it was actually educational, is occasionally when somebody dumped, say, pistachios on the floor, he would take a piece of tape and put 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent with arrows pointing at the pistachios on the floor. And at first you think, well, that's kind of a jerk move. And then what you realize is he is teaching his employees that this is money. Everything is money. And it made them aware of how to be more responsible and think more like an owner, right? Take accountability and think of it as your space and your profitability, even as an employee, right? So now an inventory can also assist with ordering, and it sets the stage for understanding other financials. Okay. So an inventory can clearly show you what you have, what you need. That can assist with ordering. In terms of understanding your other financials, understanding what everything costs on an inventory sheet can clearly set the stage for something like costing and pricing. Okay. So another fun one is the meet and yield. This is a sort of a limited nightly inventory. It is a way to see what you end the night with that carries over into the next day. The next day, you're going to start with a fixed amount. It is going to tell you, hey, I am anticipating sales of such and such today. And it can help you generate a prep list. Then you prep, it changes your overall on-hand number, and it can tell you numbers that you can put into your computer to make sure that there's not over, there's like a countdown on your product. Like, oh, I've got 10 roasted chickens today, and I'm anticipating selling 8 of them. I've got 2 extra just in case. I can put into the computer, I've got 10 total. And then as the count goes, you don't have to have your waiters running back and going, do we have any more chicken? No, it was in the computer, and we haven't made any more. We don't have time, which it is. Okay. So it can also assist with setting PARs. So PARs are basically your averages, how much you should have at any given time, given the day of the week, the time of the year, and anticipated business. Now, one of the biggest reasons to do a meet and yield is because it can track waste, loss, and theft, because on certain menu items, you are tracking how much you have at the beginning of the day and how much you have at the end of the night. You can run a report off of your POS and find out how many did I sell. In theory, what you have at the end of the day should track with how many you sold and how many you prepped. Those numbers should be the same. If you started with 2 roast chickens, you made 8, you ended the day, you had 10 at the beginning of the shift, you sold 8, you should have 2 left. If there is a discrepancy there, you need to understand why. Was it waste, and why didn't it get tracked? Was it a misorder? Why didn't it get tracked? Was it a comp? Why wasn't it tracked? Does somebody on your staff have sticky fingers? And nobody likes to think about it, but it does happen. Okay, all of this can expose those types of things. All right. So additional issues, labor and prime costs. Labor and food cost combined are what they call prime costs. Okay. Typically speaking, a restaurant runs between 60 and 65% prime cost. If you are running a 30% food cost, that means your labor cost should be between 30 and 35% of total sales. If your food cost starts increasing, that means that you are going to want to reduce your labor. And alternatively, if your labor starts to increase, you would want to do what you can to lower your food costs. Okay. Like a knucklehead, I forgot to change these numbers. So these are all issue number 1, right? Another one is vendors, understanding your vendors, getting involved with them so that you can try to find better deals on things, get samples on things so that you can try out new items. There's lots of fun ways to deal with vendors, especially in the startup phase. Once you have an inventory, a list of everything that you are making, you can almost do the old Star Trek pit them against each other mentality to try and get them to fight for your business. Okay. Loss is always a big one. What can you do with what would otherwise be waste, or understanding where loss is coming from in the first place, right? We kind of talked about that with your meat and yield. Alternative sources of income. So for instance, previously I was mentioning, oh, if I have a commercial kitchen, now I own this facility, potentially I can rent it out to other restaurant, food service businesses that can utilize my space while I am not there, right? That is a great way to have an alternate income source. And I'll be honest with you, out in the greater Coachella Valley, there are not any rental commercial kitchens that I am currently aware of. So for the most part, in order to be a caterer or a baker or something that you cannot do at home, you need a commercial kitchen. So there is a need for these types of services. Obviously, marketing is another item where money spent could be targeted to increase sales. To-go and delivery are always issues that can lead to better profitability. Potentially bringing delivery in-house instead of using Uber Eats, DoorDash, or Grubhub or one of those other services. The reason I say that is because if any of you are using those, as you are aware, they're actually kind of expensive. Plus, they increase your consumer cost by anywhere from 20 to 30%, usually closer to 30%, which means your clients are willing to pay an additional 30% of whatever their total bill is to have it delivered to their house, right? That can be a fair chunk of change. They can pay an hourly rate for somebody you keep on staff and keep those financials in-house and potentially profits in-house versus just shoveling money at another service. Plus, you can train your own individuals, your customer service, your brand and recognition, and whatnot, versus trusting somebody who is just a Grubhub person and whatnot. So not to gross anybody out, but third-party delivery services have admitted 70% of them for actually trying the food which they are delivering, which is kind of gross. Guess what? Your delivery people would be far less prone to do so because they have access to that food, if not staff meals or discounts, etc. And then, of course, detailed financials. Getting knee-deep into the numbers is going to point out a lot of discrepancies in where these things, where money can be made or where money is being lost. All right, I see something in the chat. And I am already over time. So, questions? Hopefully not too bad. So.
No, you did great. Thank you, Jay, for all the information you provided. Robert, I see Robert, Miss Whitney, and one additional person. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask now that you have Jay all to yourself.
Yeah, given that this was just an hour-long presentation, as you can see, there's a lot that we're just touching the surface on. So please feel free to utilize my contact information, get on my calendar, whatever the case may be. And I'd be happy to assist more, right?
Well, it looks like they might not have any questions at the moment, but please be aware that we will share this recording with you after the webinar, along with Jay's contact information. And as Jay had mentioned, this is a free program where you have the ability to get one-on-one consultation. So just feel free to reach out to the Small Business Development Center at any time. Can you give us a quick idea of what the process looks like when registering for a one-on-one consultation?
Yeah, if you're not already in our system, you need to fill out a client intake form. It's not terribly hard. It's just basically your contact information and a signature. The signature has to do with our non-disclosure policy, so we don't talk about you to literally anybody. The only you're not going to get credit card offers or people trying to buy your house or anything like that. The only thing you're ever going to get from us is, hey, here's another program that we have that you might be interested in, or, ooh, we're doing a grand opening over here, or here's one of our associated network affiliates that are interested, have an interesting program that you might want to do. So that's all you're really going to get from us. Other than that, no, you can just do the Calendly link. And if you haven't created a profile, I will walk you through it during our first meeting. So it's not
Perfect. Fairly easy.
Yep.
And just to make you all aware, the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce also has upcoming events, and you are welcome to visit our website at gcvcc.org. We have mixer events coming up. We have a morning mixer October 5th at 7:30 a.m. and evening mixers starting from 4:30 and up. These are 2-hour networking opportunities, along with we have a list of educational webinars and community events. For example, the State of the City and the annual barbecue festival event that you're able to participate by having the exhibitor table. So Jay, thank you so much for all the information you've provided. It's very valuable to us, and I'm sure it will be to our members as well, and for spending time with us this morning.
Yes, ma'am. Look forward to the next time.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.